ESPR Boxing. We are back here. We are in, I suppose, reactive mode. We're just reacting to what's happening currently taking place. Obviously, the superweight heavyweight card is taking place in the Kingdom of Rydia. AGIT KABAYEL just, well, I suppose, registered a shock victory over ARSLANBEK and MAKHMUDOV, and we are here to react to that. I'm going to come to you, starting really first and foremost, and ask you. That I don't think we were expecting that. Obviously, different people have obviously you've seen betting slips flying around online, and what we've seen, we're not expecting that as a result. So we are here. I suppose both of us are surprised. But if I just get your thoughts first on the reaction to what you've just seen, and then we'll touch on it in more detail.
Hey mate, yeah, thanks for having me on first of all. Look, I enjoyed that. The first thing I want to say is that everyone's talking about tonight and how great a card it is, and it's a stacked card, and this fight and that fight. This card, it needed an upset for it to be a great card. If every fight had gone the way that kind of Jayapataya Elisoro had gone, where it's either an early knockout for the guy who you think's going to win, or it's just a dominant performance. I don't think it would be that satisfactory. But now we've had two undefeated heavyweights go up against each other. One was quite a strong favourite. I think Makhmudov was it was 1-4 just for him to win by stoppage tonight. I'm not sure what the odds were on KABAYEL stoppage, but we've got that upset that we were hoping for. So I don't want to hear too many more complaints about the card because because it was a fun fight. And I feel like it was one of those where in the space of 4 rounds we saw the best and worst of Makhmudov. Makhmudov can clearly I consider him to be one of the hardest punchers in the heavyweight division. But when you look at the top 25 heavyweights, he's probably the worst when it comes to footwork, movement, head movement, because he's just so stiff. And I just think he's come up against someone who can move a bit and who can punch a bit in KABAYEL, and he's come up short. So we've seen the best and worst of Makhmudov in 4 rounds there. And yeah, congratulations to the mystery man that is Ajay KABAYEL.
No, absolutely, I totally agree with you. And look, I suppose for British fans, we know Caballero, don't we, for obviously beating Derek Chisora many years ago. But we also see, looking at through his record as well, obviously he's got like a UD victory over Kevin Johnson, which is you consider how old Kevin Johnson is, how long Kevin Johnson's been around. It wouldn't suggest obviously Caballero's got that power. So a Caballero stoppage would have been obviously one hell of a pick tonight. 16 KOs in 24 wins, like you mentioned, Makhmudov 17 KOs in 18 wins, but not really stepped up against anyone that's really the top upper echelons of the division. Just touching, I suppose, on a bit of what's going to be coming next for both of these fighters. If you look at it, I think Makhmudov was around sort of 10 to 15 on a lot of those sort of bodies as well. I think we look at the WBO especially, he was kicking around that level. People were talking obviously about him as a prospect. I think at the WBC he was even ranked three in their division behind Joshua Wilder and Fury. So obviously was ranked as being as a really credible heavyweight that was looking to, at some point to probably move himself into mandatory and have a title shot. That looks unlikely now. So I'd say really, having seen what you've seen tonight, where do you think the level of Makhmudov is? And secondly, I suppose where would you go in this rebuild? I mean, obviously you mentioned he needs to do a lot of work, possibly in movement. Looks very stiff tonight. But yeah, how would you go about also rebuilding him? Who do you think they'll match him with next?
So one thing I would say is that with Makhmudov, I still believe, look, if he hits you flush, you're going over. I just think that he's been matched against a lot of guys who are a lot smaller than him, and he's not got that kind of proper kind of name on his record. The only kind of name you'd really notice on his records is Carlos Takam, and that's the only guy who's actually taken him the distance. He's 34 years old, which isn't old for a heavyweight, but I do question how much you can improve at the age of 34. And he is not going to turn into kind of a fleet-footed Tyson Fury-like fighter. I don't think that's going to happen. So I question how much is going to change. And I think what's quite exciting now is in this. What's quite exciting about Makhmudov's career is you've not got too much time to rebuild, and you're not going to improve that much. So I just think it's about putting. I think they'll put him. I do think they'll put him in with anyone because I think he would still fancy his chances, and there is still a chance he could beat anyone if he's able to hit somebody flush. Um, and also guys will fancy it now because they've just they've if I'm I don't know an Andy Ruiz or a Murat Gassiev, I can just think just fucking sorry for swearing. If you can just survive for like the first 3 or 4 rounds, then you've got a chance. That's kind of how you beat him. It's whether you can get past those first 3 or 4 rounds. Bit of a long-winded answer, so I apologize, but that's how I see it. I'm still excited to see Makhmudov back in the ring. I think he's got fantastic power, but I just think I don't think it was too tough for KABAYEL to beat him tonight. It didn't look like a war to me, and he's kind of showing other heavyweights how it can be done.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think his tactics got it wrong, didn't he? Obviously, as well. He gassed very, very early and then obviously got stopped. But just a final word, I suppose, on the victor tonight. AGIT KABAYEL, a guy who is again ranked somewhere between sort of 10 and 15 usually, hasn't had obviously those massive fights. But I was wondering as well where you think he can go from here. How he's not the biggest heavyweight, and like he got a stoppage tonight, but he's not a big puncher at the weight either. To be perfectly honest with you, how far can you see him going? Do you see him kind of in around top 10 at the moment? Do you see him troubling anyone in the sort of top five? Or do you see it maybe for him being more of a sort of gatekeeper potentially to some of those other guys can come through?
Um, I'm struggling. I just think with Caballero, he's been such a mystery for a few years now. I believe that Derek Chisora fight was 2017. He's not done an awful lot since then. So I just think one win isn't gonna. I'm not gonna go over the top here, like I'm sure some people are on Twitter currently. Not saying he's a bad heavyweight, but is he a top 10 heavyweight? Not for me. Top 15, probably not. But we'll see. I believe he's 31 years old, so as you know, still got plenty of time in his hands. But just want to see him active. So want to see want to see what he can do now. And that's it. Look, if I was him, maybe you're eyeing up some of the winners, some of the losers on the card tonight, and then you'll be back in the ring March, April time. But that's all I can hope for. I'm not. I refuse to go over the top. Impressive win. Congratulations to him. But in my opinion, let's not start kind of saying this and saying that.
No, I totally agree, and I think look, it'll be interesting, like you say. There's obviously the guys in Saudi. Hopefully, will push him and promote him again. There's obviously one tonight. There's other cards coming up at the end of March. The card's still going on. We are obviously going to get back to that. We'll be reviewing other fights obviously as they take place and sending our reaction to what's going on the card. But again, guys, let us know in the comments whether you agree or disagree with this about that stoppage. Where you think both fighters can go after this. And then Elliot Stott, I'll speak to you later on tonight. And guys, thank you for watching.
Thanks, mate.